Hello, Ananda. Um, you write, simplicity is ringing ever more clearly as the guiding principle and perhaps even the goal itself. Well, that's nice.
Well, the point is, as far as the mind being being the problem, so to speak, if there's a problem, then what I notice is making something a big deal. Now it makes simplicity a big deal. Just when the simplicity is seeming like, oh my gosh, that's all it takes. Is because there's no lack of having heard teaching, for example, and in fact there's no lack of having some experiences of simple being.
Yeah. When the mind is unencumbered, there are no personal issues. All is well. It is pretty simple, and more than that, it's also peaceful. It's joyful. It's free. It's happy. Please make sure to mute your mic. So yeah, it's not. Simplicity comes as a package with other qualities. So there is humility, there is contentment, there is clarity. All these they accompany simplicity, you see? So situations are simple, life is simple, it's unencumbered, therefore it's easier to navigate. There are lesser complications, lesser obstacles. And simplicity what is sort of the source of simplicity is an absence of a sense of lack, an absence of a problem, you see. So, and what comes with the absence of a problem or the absence of a sense of lack is the absence of a sense of self, of separate me, you see. So the greatest simplicity comes from your absence, from the absence of the me impression. Then whatever arises is effortlessly welcomed, effortlessly recognized. There is a relaxation around it, and it arises and dissolves in the openness of your relaxation, in your availability. So as soon as the me impression arises, and might be habitual, the habitual tendency, and there isn't a contemplation, there isn't a questioning or an inquiry that comes with that, then the impression that something is personal, whatever is happening to me, stirs the mind, because then the mind is looking for ways to get on the other side of that, to become free of that problem. And because the problem is illusory, it's illusory simply because the separate me is illusory. Consciousness is not a separate self. But because the problem is illusory, then the solution is illusory.
Mm-hmm.
and will not bring a real resolution. So the mind, once the mind gets stirred up, trying to fix a personal problem,
Yes.
it's on an endless spin. And that's a complicated mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now you said something about simplicity becoming an obsession. What was that? Not an obsession. A com, a com, don't complicate it, okay? Simplicity is simple enough. It doesn't need to become a problem.
No, no. What I mean is something. I was just saying, mind. I recognize mind can take, with the best of intentions, can take any kind of contemplation even, and turn it into an issue to be,
Yeah,
come up with more and more.
but that's not contemplation. Right? That's not contemplation. That's the personal impression using a tool or perceiving some method to serve itself, to maintain itself. Contemplation is the contemplation of the self. It's
Yeah.
the contemplation of what is the reality of my experience.
Okay. Now I get like my you sort of got me to my point. The simplicity of simplicity with a capital S. That's what we're talking about. That's what satsang's about, I say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the simplicity of my own life. Oh my gosh, I don't have to worry about this. Oh, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they're just.
Initially, there might be this impression that your life is moving from, complication to simplicity. Go, oh, gee, I don't have to worry about this or worry about that. But soon after that, it becomes your natural state. So, like when you wake up in the morning, yes.
Mm-hmm.
When you wake up in the morning, there is a transition between the sleep state and the waking state. So the body is sort of just coming on board and yawning, stretching, moving, etc. But half hour later, you're no longer noticing that you're awake, because you're awake. You just go on throughout the day. So there might be a certain phase where you sort of notice the shift from all the previous concerns and previous worries to the simplicity of being, but soon afterwards that's forgotten as you are settled in presence, settled in the simplicity of being.
Makes perfect sense. I guess what I'm just seeing is the tendency to just take on one thing after the other as a me managed approach or something. And so this is showing me my real point of interest here is going to it's like going pointedly to the spaciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and staying with that without ever more philosophical.
Yeah, well, it's once you start contemplating that whatever unfolds is impersonal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't like a stirring. There isn't like a tendency to perceive a personal danger or to perceive there is something at stake. So when you perceive the weather, you perceive the sky, you perceive the birds flying, passing through, feeding at the bird feeder. It's impersonal. If you can perceive whatever is happening within the mental space,
Yes.
and at the sensory level as impersonal, it's that simple. The spaciousness of consciousness it already is.
Yes.
And it is it is somehow overlooked when the mind perceives personal problems and contracts
Mm-hmm.
around a sense of me in danger. It's more at the feeling level, and then there is a sense of uh, something personal at stake, like as if my life is at stake,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a sense of emergency or urgency,
Mm-hmm.
while simply noticing that whatever arises is at its before the add-on, before the interpretive mind comes and turns it into a me story.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever arises at its basis is completely neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Every
That's good.
thought, every thought you perceive is neutral. The perception of the thought is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mirror reflecting an image. A mirror can reflect an image of an ocean or of a fire. It's unmoved, untouched. It's a neutral event. And that at the body level, whatever sensation is arising is neutral. At
Mm-hmm.
its origin, is neutral. There is, before the mind adds on, oh, look what's happening to me, you see.
Yes.
This does not mean that when we perceive a toothache, we ignore it. No, we don't. The toothache has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It turns your attention to your diet, of course, seeking treatment and looking into it to have an easier time with it, with
Mm-hmm.
with this body-mind experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course, fully being aware that this is a temporary experience. It's just a passing experience. The body is it's a passing event. At some point in time, it ceases to be, and then there is the freedom of the body, the freedom from the body, freedom from the body.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as there is a body impression, it's good to give the freedom, as much freedom as possible to the body, meaning as much good
Mm-hmm.
good management and a good attending out of intelligence
Mm-hmm.
to the body. And everything in your life, you attend to it from an impersonal position, but you recognize that it makes sense, for example, in the winter uh, to warm up, to have a heat in your house, and in the summer to open up the windows and allow some fresh air.
Yes.
You recognize out of intelligence that although you are not the body, that you can feed the body when the body expresses hunger, or you can invite the body to rest when the body experiences tiredness. But it's always from an impersonal position, because consciousness is not personal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you follow, yes?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
that, yes, you're welcome. There is a question from Mary. Hello, Mary. Um, so Mary says, this question is similar to what you are speaking about now. How can I be free when my mind is full of fear about my job? I need to reach a quota and I am doing what I can, but I am not seeing results yet. Sorry for the repeat question. I know I have asked you this several times, but it occupies my mind a lot and it's causing me stress and anxiety. How do I trust consciousness? Well, Mary, the core error you are making is to believe that you are the mind. So the mind is full of anxiety, is full of thoughts, meaning there are thoughts about me tomorrow. There are bodily sensation, contractions, and other. What's going to happen to me? It's a sense of threat, some sort of fear that's being expressed in the body, in the belly, maybe in the neck, in the face. But all of these impressions do not touch you. They don't touch you. But if you believe that they do, then you experience your experience, rather than being untouched by those events that arise and they will dissolve, you maintain them. They become sort of fixated rather than just passing. They stay there. And so the repeat question is not because there is any danger happening to you, but because you believe that there is a danger happening to you. And you believe there is a danger happening to you because you believe that you are the mind. You somehow are overlooking that you are consciousness. And that consciousness is untouched, is not a thing. It's not an object that you can cut, you can hurt, that you can burn, that you can drown. You're overlooking what you truly are. And as long as you overlook what you truly are, you believe yourself to be a mortal body mind. You believe yourself to be Mary, and that something is happening to you, and that somebody is causing something to you, that your boss is imposing a quota on you. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? So notice that there is, in the midst of all of that, of all these impressions, that there is a quality that is untouched, that's unmoved, that's unstirred, that's unaffected. Notice that between one thought and another thought, there is a gap. There has to be. Because if there was no gap between one thought and another thought, Mary, there would be just one thought. But thought A and thought B are two different thoughts. If there were one thought, there would be no gap between them. Notice that there is a gap between thoughts. And this gap is no thought. It's pure consciousness without thought, in the absence of thought. Thought A is consciousness taking on the form of thought B. Of thought A, excuse me. And thought B is consciousness taking on the form of thought B. And between thought A, which is consciousness taking on the form of thought A, and thought B, which is consciousness taking on the form of thought B, there is consciousness taking on no form. You are all of it. But although consciousness takes on a form, it remains formless. Like a cloud is made out of droplets of water, very minute, minuscule droplets of water, takes on the shape of a dragon, or it takes on the shape of an angel. Although these tiny droplets of moisture take on the shape of a dragon or an angel, this angel and this dragon are really made out of this minuscule of this moisture. Just as an analogy, that the reality of all forms, the reality of the thoughts and the feelings that you're experiencing does not belong to the thought, does not belong to the sensation. The reality belongs to consciousness. And you are this consciousness. So know yourself as that perceives this perception right now. Or that perceives the thought, oh my God, what's going to happen to me if I don't meet the quota? Know yourself as that perceives this thought. And in time, you will come to know that nothing happens to you. If you meet the quota, if you don't meet the quota, consider it a play of sport. And that the play goes on and on and on. Meeting quota, not meeting the quota. In 1980, I met the quota. 1982, I didn't. 1983, oh, I did great. 1984, I was great here. 1985, I was fiasco. 1986, oh, I got fired. I worked in the theater industry. 1989, I became a great actress. Year 2000, I ceased acting. I became a traveler. Consider it a play. Lighten up about it. As long as you contemplate your true nature, what am I truly? You're moving in the right direction. As long as you are contemplating that you are the awareness, the aware presence that perceives whatever perceptions, whatever arises on the screen, you are moving in the right direction. And consciousness will take care of the rest. At the same time, Mary, as I mentioned earlier, at your job, you do your best. You have certain information available to you, certain skills available to you. You use them as best you can. That's all what's demanded from you. You do your best and you leave the rest to God. Your intention is really important. You come from a good intention to do your best at your work, to provide to your employer the best services that is possible from you, given your skills, your skill level, and the opportunities and the circumstances that are available to you. And you leave the rest to God. Yes? Don't be so focused on how it unfolds. Let it be. Let it unfold. Having done the best you can, you let it be. Okay, well, thank you for your question, Mary. If you have any follow-up, please don't hesitate to do so. Hello, Isaac. Uh, Isaac writes, the me longs to be free of suffering, but simultaneously it's paralyzed by the fear. Isaac, the me is only interested in maintaining itself. It wants to have better experiences, better relationships, better fortune, better health, better situations. And that's its sort of its purpose. That's all it knows. It just knows to maintain itself. And of course, it separates itself from the whole. It's a me impression. It's a separate me impression. And it's only serving to maintain itself. It's a sort of like some form of addiction in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So the thoughts that the me thoughts are, oh my goodness, what's happening to me? What's going to happen to me? Why is this happening to him or to her and not to me? And oh, I like him. Why doesn't he like me? Oh, he gave it to him. Why didn't he give it to me? And it's the thoughts. We all know them. I mean, they're like a billion of them.
Yeah.
And of course, the body is transparent. It's so transparent. It resonates. It expresses in a very intimate way those thoughts of what's happening to me. You could feel as soon as that thought arises, the body registers and expresses this impression of danger, personal danger, I say.
Mm-hmm.
And in time, there is like a sort of a sense of me that inhabits the body. Over time, it's sort of it becomes very easy for the body to sort of relive, a certain feeling, depression or fear or anxiety or aloneness or sadness or loneliness or purposelessness, etc. It's been conditioned in a way, you see. It easily gets it's easy for a certain life circumstances, situations, even simple ones, to trigger, to bring into the body, to bring the body to express those buried emotions.
Yeah.
So coming to your question, the me doesn't really long to be free or to be free of suffering. It just wants to maintain itself. But it is what longs for freedom is our deep knowingness of freedom. There is a deep, innate knowingness that of freedom, of peace, of joy, of happiness.
Yeah.
Because how could we long for something and we have no idea what it is? It makes no sense. We long for to be in the arms of our mother, to hug our mother, to hug a friend. We long to go to the beach. We long for things that we know are beautiful. We know are that's so we long for freedom because there is an innate knowingness in the depth of our being of this freedom.
Yeah.
And we always in whatever we're doing, there is a longing for freedom, for beauty, for love, for happiness.
Yeah.
Even when we are, whatever we're doing, we're working hard because we want to make money so we can be happy. We're trying to practice a good speech so we can talk clearly, impress people, and they applaud us. They say how beautiful we are, how great we are, and that makes us happy. You see, when whatever we do,
Yeah.
even we even acts that are very inharmonious, we do them because in one way or the other we believe that they will lead us to happiness, to peace, to freedom, to happiness.
Right.
So, if you contemplate that in everything we do, we are pursuing that freedom, that joy, that peace, that happiness. So, and we must know it. If we don't know it, we wouldn't know what we are seeking. You see.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to clarify that our love and our desire for freedom and for joy and for happiness arises out of our innate sense of freedom, joy, peace, and happiness.
Mm.
So this innate freedom, joy, and happiness does not belong to something that is transient. In other words, it's not a good partner or a good job or a good house or a good situation that's not where, it's not in those forms that freedom, peace, joy, and happiness reside.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom, peace, joy, and happiness reside in what is eternal. And it is that which is eternal that is sort of seeping through and expressing its glory, its beauty. It's when we're feeling happy, it is that we're experiencing. We're not experiencing the mind.
Mm-hmm.
We're experiencing that which is beyond the mind, which is, we refer to it as at the heart. When the mind falls into the heart, then we're experiencing the absolute. We're experiencing the source. So the journey is one of recognition. It's a simple recognition that what we are is this lovely, pure, free, unbound, joyful, peaceful, infinite, borderless, aware presence. That we already are that. We are that. And it's like there is the sun shining, but you don't see the sun because there are clouds. But although there are clouds and the impression is that there is no sun, a small peek into the clouds will show you, will reveal to you the infinite sun. And so it's a recognition that the reality of our experience does not lie at the mind level, but it lies at the infinite level. That we are not finite, we are not a finite personal event. We are the infinity of awareness, the borderlessness of awareness, of consciousness, of presence, of being. It's a recognition that that's what the peace is, that's what the beauty is, that's what the love is. And it's not an experience at the mind level. It is the reality of what we are, the universal reality. It's the universal reality of everything. It's the absolute truth, the absolute reality of what we are, is this borderless presence. So, and there is no fear in that. That's fear. Fear, Isaac, is at the thought, at the mind level,
Yeah.
at the me. It's, oh my goodness, will I, shall I, why didn't I, when
Yeah.
will I be able to?
Or imagine like future situations, where
Yes.
it can happen, that can happen, so I'm not going to be
Yes.
terrible.
Yes.
In my
Imagining.
case, more in the economic issues. No?
Yes. It's
Yeah.
always an imagining of a limited me in time. Limited me in time. Me the body, me the person in time.
Yeah.
So it's a complete distrust of God.
Yeah. It is.
It's believing the mind to be real. Believing the thoughts are real. The I thought, the me thought is real. And completely disregarding what makes what makes the trees grow, what makes the birds sing, what makes the birds fly, what makes the water flow, what makes the oxygen feed the body, what makes the blood flow in the it's a complete disregard for the universal.
It is.
And the complete lack of trust in the infinite. So notice.
You want to control.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to control. Yes, you want to control.
Yeah.
This control is like a mirage. It's like you try to control, but when you are trying to control, you've already assumed that you are a limited self. You are limited, that you are limited. So in your trying to control, you are maintaining your sense of limitation. And so you try to control, it becomes almost an addiction that is based on your belief that you are limited. So you're attempting to control maintains your impression that you don't notice anymore of being like a limited, incomplete, and out of control person. It maintains that impression.
Yeah.
So it's not about trying to stop anything, change anything. It's just about noticing that there is no personal control, that personal control is an illusion, and that in spite of that, all is well. All is well. At a deep level, all is well, and I am this aware presence. Bodies come and go, impressions come and go, bodily sensations come and go, thoughts come and go. Awareness does not come and go. And I am that awareness, I am that. It's not a thing, it's not an awareness that's depending on a body. The body is an instrument to perceive a tree, to perceive the screen, to perceive a car, it's an instrument. But the perceiver is not an instrument. The perceiver is consciousness. It's not a form, not a thing. It does not depend. The perceiver does not depend on the body. The body depends on the perceiver. Because without the perceiver, the body is a useless instrument.
Yeah.
You are the perceiver of all perceptions. You perceive your thoughts, you perceive every bodily sensation. You're the perceiver. You're not something perceived. So you recognize that. You recognize that you are the perceiver, and that you've mistaken for many, many years. You mistook the perceiver to be Isaac, to be a male, to be born. And you might over and over again mistake the perceiver to be Isaac, but you can always go back to, wait a minute, Isaac is perceived. Is perceived. It's perceived as a memory, it's perceived as a thought, it's perceived as a perception, it's perceived as a bodily sensation. You see? Yeah. So it's perceived. But I, consciousness, perceives Isaac. Isaac does not perceive consciousness. Consciousness perceives Isaac. The oak tree does not perceive consciousness. Consciousness perceives the oak tree. Even when the mind is paralyzed with fear, consciousness is untouched. An hour later, the fear is gone. Nothing has happened to consciousness. An hour later, the fear comes back. Nothing is happening to consciousness. Recognize that does not come and go. Recognize that does not, that is unborn and untouched. Beautiful sound of the bird there in the background.
A beautiful day here.
Yeah, oh, beautiful. Lovely. Yeah. Yes.
Magdi.
Yeah, well, nice to see you, Isaac.
Thank you very much.
Yes, say hello to our friends. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Ananda, you write, there is an old Chan or Zen saying, I smile at the flower, the flower smiles at me. Any comment to this? So you want to do a corn work here, eh?
No, well, the reason I bring it up is very specific, is that you talk about, you just said to Isaac, the perceived does not perceive. Yes. And so I've always been puzzled by this, yes. Because it's all consciousness, why?
You know, Ananda, in the teaching, we use certain means, certain tools, certain metaphors to bring the mind, to release the mind from a certain knot, from a certain, you see?
Yeah.
And then the tool is discarded. Yes, you see?
Makes sense.
And in the Zen tradition, the koan work is quite different from the Advaiting teaching that we're sharing here. and I've done years of koans. The Advaitin teaching, there is a simplicity to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it speaks directly to the mind and sort of anesthetizes the mind. Am I saying it correctly? Anesthetizes the mind, and then it operates behind the scene. You know, it anesthetizes the mind and operates behind the scene.
Mm-hmm.
The operation behind the scene is the presence, is the stillness, and the teaching is simply the anesthetizing the mind.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, that's one way of looking at the Advaitic teaching. But let me come to your question more precisely. So I smile at the flower, and the flower smiles at me. Any comment to this?
Well,
So I'm gonna
the
give you.
flower is a perception, and perceptions don't perceive.
I'm gonna give you a Zen answer.
Right.
A Zen answer. Okay.
All right.
So the Zen answer is: I look at the flower. There is no flower.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I look at the flower, and the universe smiles at me.
Mm.
The flower looks at me,
Mm.
and the universe smiles at the flower.
Say the last one again.
I forgot it now.
The universe smiles at me, and
I'm sure it's in the recording.
oh yeah, yes.
So I'm
Sure.
not going to bother to try to remember it. I'm going to let it go.
Okay, but I kind of get the idea. It's the all-pervadingness of the consciousness, and we don't really put these. Well,
What matters is the experiences that you come to the self, the metaphysical transformation that takes you from the impression of personhood to the reality of the self. Without this metaphysical transformation, we're still on the path. Yes.
mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, you could say maybe what you're saying is it's on all levels. It's cellular, it's energetic, vibrational, it's everything. It's not just an understanding.
Yes, absolutely.
This reminds me of something you said last time that we talked was behind. You
so,
don't. Oh, sorry.
Hold that thought. Just to say one more thing about looking at the oak tree. I see the oak tree, and the oak tree does not see me. Yes.
Yes.
I perceive the oak tree. It can be put differently, if which would serve the same purpose, but it's simpler. It's simpler to be pointing to the reality of consciousness and not the reality of what is perceived. But another way, this is only actually the part of the teaching. It's not the ultimate teaching. Of course, the ultimate teaching is complete, utter silence, utter silence. But along that, the path of the teaching, there are more. They're teaching that are further along.
Yeah.
Where all is consciousness. All is consciousness. Yeah. Tree is consciousness. All is consciousness, and all is knowingness. There is. It's the knowing, the knower, the knowing, and the known are one. Are instantaneous arisings. They're they're
Right.
they're all knowingness. They're all knowing. There isn't a knower, a knowing, and a known.
Right.
But that is a more it's a further along uh, um, teaching. And when you are working in the close proximity of a teacher, you have, of course, a better opportunity to get the full teaching. Not just the full teaching in terms of how it's expressed, but of course, as above all, also the presence, being in the presence.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So, yes, I perceive the tree perceives me in a complete absence of a perceiver and a perceived. Yes, that is also a correct expression of truth. But do not forget that all these expressions of truth, what lies behind them is the experience. What lies behind all these expressions is not just a fancy expression, it doesn't matter. It's experience, which is a metaphysical experience of the self, being the self, knowing yourself as being the self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that cannot be put in words.
Okay. Yes. What I was about to saying earlier is you mentioned last time about you don't the mind is interested in knowing that I'm not here because that's like it's like wonderful freedom to not be a self-concerned being. So the mind becomes interested in.
Yes.
And it's really the me mind is interested in not being someone and knowing and recognizing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you said, well, it happens under the. It's not even noticed in a sense because the mind's not there doing that churn over it, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So what is your question?
Oh, I just was saying that seemed kind of similar to this issue of the thing that the flower seeing me and me seeing the flower. It's like that level of reality is just happening. I don't know. If you're into Zen, if you're really into koans, you're trying to make sense of it somehow. But it's really just happening on a whole different level of reality, so to speak. Maybe.
Koans aim at stilling the mind first of all, stilling the mind, and then taking your contemplation from the level of the mind to the beyond. So they have a dual purpose of first bringing the mind quickly to complete stillness, because the mind can't answer what is the sound of one hand clapping, but then it opens the contemplation into what is the meaning, what is the deep meaning of this question, and then it leads you into contemplation of truth. One could say that everything is expressing the self. All expressions express the self at their purest, at their purest expression. They're the self appearing as that, and so they point to the self. Trees do, flowers do, sensations, thoughts do, perceptions. They speak to the self. They reveal the self. They are the self. Because, in everything that appears, there is the question, there is the built-in question, the hidden question. What is it? What is it? What is the reality of this experience? What is a flower? What is this perception? What is this? So in everything that appears, there is the hidden question that takes you home, that takes you to the self. At the same time, given there is one reality that is second to none, everything is that reality, and that reality is the reality of everything. So there is one reality, and everything expresses that reality, is that reality, since there is one reality.
Yeah.
So everything comes to that reality, everything is that reality, expresses that reality. There is no other reality, there is no physical and non-physical reality. So, in a way, at that level of understanding, there is nowhere to go. There is nothing to be comprehended, to be achieved, to be understood, to be realized. There is no ignorance to be released or to be clarified.
Yeah.
That's at that absolute level. But to arrive to the understanding of the absolute level, metaphysically, meaning not just intellectually, because you can come to that understanding irrationally in your reasoning. You can come to the understanding that all is the self, and that there is no actual ignorance, that all is the self. But to arrive at that understanding while there is still suffering, while there is still at the sensation level a contraction away from that, from that peace, from that understanding.
Yes.
That is not sufficient. The comprehension of truth, the comprehension of the absolute, has to go beyond the understanding, the conceptual understanding, and has to include, above all, it has to include the metaphysical shift into that understanding. And that's the magic. So in the teaching, with a guide, you are taken to the edge of the precipice. And then there is the fall. You're taken to the edge of the metaphysical revelation.
Right. And the fall is not frightening because spaciousness there's a certain familiarity with spaciousness coming.
Yes. I am the self. I mean, I am consciousness. Nothing happens to consciousness. Nothing happens to consciousness. It does not burn, it does not drown, it does not get cut, it does not separate, it does not get torn into pieces.
Okay, well, I appreciate this sojourn into another...
Yes, okay, you're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, if there is anybody else that wanted to look into anything, any questions that you may have? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presence and for your company, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you,
goodbye,
Mike.
Isaac. Goodbye, Ananda. Goodbye, everybody. Sandy, Teresa, goodbye.